Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending where you are around the world, and welcome to FreeMind Summer School. Today's webinar topic is medical devices, non-dilutive funding, trends and opportunities. We will be discussing how to pursue funding for your medical device from the United States government. My name is Mark Cohen. I am the Director of Business Development at the FreeMind Group, and I'm pleased to present today's webinar. To learn more about the FreeMind Group, you can visit our website at www.freemindconsultants.com. And to keep up to date on the latest in non-dilutive funding, you are cordially invited to follow us on Twitter and YouTube as well, and join our LinkedIn group, Non-Dilutive Funding for Life Sciences R&D. Today's webinar is the 7th in the FreeMind Group's Summer School series. If you missed any of the previous webinars, they're available on our YouTube channel, FreeMind Group. And for your convenience, today's webinar is also being recorded and will be available on YouTube. In addition, I'll be sending out the slide deck to all of you who have registered for today's webinar. Feel free to share it with your friends and colleagues. After today, we will have 2 more webinars scheduled as part of this Summer School series, SBIR, STTR, and the last in the series will be on registration ins and outs. Make sure to register early, and please feel free to spread the word to everyone who might be interested in these webinars. All the information on these webinars, as well as how to register, can be found on our website, www.freemindconsultants.com. At the end of this webinar, we'll have some time for Q&A. You can enter your questions in the question window on the side of your screen. And you're welcome to call me or email me directly with your questions which are specific to your situation or science. And my contact information will be available on the last slide of today's presentation. And today's webinar, as well as this Summer School series of webinars, is brought to you by the FreeMind Group. And many of you already know who we are. Maybe you met us at a conference. We attend conferences throughout the year and around the world. However, for those who don't yet know us, let me begin with a very brief overview of who we are and what we do. FreeMind is a consulting firm. We are the global leader in non-dilutive funding, and our main objective is to help our clients get as much money as possible from non-dilutive sources. We work across the life sciences, and we focus on the NIH, National Institutes of Health, and DOD, Department of Defense, as well as many other government organizations such as BARDA, CDC, FDA, NSF, and others. We also work with private foundations when relevant. We have 40 full-time employees, and we've been helping our clients in their quest for non-dilutive funding for almost 15 years. The FreeMind Group prepares over 250 applications every year, so there's a great deal of experience, knowledge, and expertise, which is all put to work for our clients to increase your chances of winning an award and to help our clients get the largest non-dilutive awards possible. Our clients include academics, research institutes, and university medical centers, as well as companies from small startups of 1 or 2 people to medium and large companies, including many of the large pharmaceutical companies. The FreeMind Group is a tool to help you maximize your non-dilutive funding potential. What does this mean? And how do we maximize your funding potential? Well, first of all, our analysts identify the most relevant funding opportunities, and this is a very important first step. If you have great science, however, you apply for a grant that's not relevant to your science or you use the incorrect mechanism, you will not be successful, despite the fact that your science is really deserving of funding. The analysts then create a list of funding opportunities, and together with you, they create a strategy, a multiple submission granting strategy, in order to maximize the application's chances of an award. We also manage the complex project production process, leading a joint application writing process, as we cannot do this alone, but we'll lead it, but we need you on board in this joint effort since you are the experts in your science. And when relevant, we will support final contract negotiations as well. So across the non-dilutive funding landscape in the U.S., we're talking about a pocket of money of about $50 billion in non-dilutive money for the life sciences. Although all of the 27 institutes of the National Institutes of Health are potential funders for medical devices, And the ones there is one whose sole focus is to support medical devices, and that is the National Institute of Biomedical Imaging and Bioengineering, the NIBIB. In addition, BARDA, the U.S. Army, and DARPA also fund medical devices. There are CDMRPs are another great source of funding. This year's deadlines have already passed. However, make sure to look out for the next round of CDMRPs, which are usually announced around March and April. And then there are private foundations as well. Now, it's interesting to note that out of the $50 billion allocated to funding the life sciences, a major portion of that, around $29 billion or 60% of it, comes from the NIH. And the NIH budget is currently at around $29 billion a year, and a very large portion of this budget, about $24 billion, goes externally from the NIH to advanced research. It's devoted for extramural research, such as research project grants and R&D contracts. And so that's the pocket of money that we're going after. Now, so where is the money going? In any of these areas, as you can see from the list, there is funding for medical devices. Money is hiding in all of these areas, and these numbers exceed the $24 billion that I discussed in the previous slide because there is an overlapping of the funding. The items on this list are not mutually exclusive. And in all these pockets of money, there are hiding in all these pockets of money, there are hiding pockets of money for medical devices. So what is important to note is that a percentage of their total funding goes to medical devices. I don't have the breakdown, but all these areas are applicable sources of funding. Yet bioengineering, the second from the bottom, is a great place to start at $3.3 billion awarded, and my guess is that a handsome percentage of this is going to medical devices. So when we do look at the NIH and we're looking at specific opportunities, what we have been seeing over the past few years is more organized and structured funding in medical device development. We are looking at a rising number of specific program announcements, and I'll give you some specific examples here. One is developing a point-of-care device for the diagnosis of sickle cell disease in low-resource settings. And another one is imaging diagnostics of dental diseases and conditions. And what I'm trying to show you here in this slide is that there are highly targeted solicitations out there that could be an exact match between what you are looking to advance and what these solicitations are looking to fund. So in summary, when approaching medical device opportunities, there could be a specific solicitation, but there could be a wider net to cast as well. So if we focus to those areas that are hot topics of funding, there is a lot of nano going on, and big data is gaining a lot of traction and interest within the NIH. And in addition, the FDA would like to see diagnostic tools being used in conjunction with drug development. So again, keeping your own medical device development in mind as we go through today's webinar and see where your particular technology plugs into particular opportunities. And now let's discuss specific medical device funding opportunities. First up is the National Institute of Biomedical Imaging and Bioengineering, the NIBIB. And the mission of the NIBIB is to improve health by leading the development and accelerating the application of biomedical technologies. And the NIBIB's mission is not limited to a single disease, group of illnesses, or population. Rather, it spans the entire spectrum. So the NIBIB is a great place to start. So Dr. Pettigrew, who's the current director of the NIBIB, says that medical device makers should focus on creating low-cost, non-invasive medical technologies, but still work on quote-unquote medical moonshots that change the world. So the quote from Dr. Pettigrew is the idea behind the NIBIB, and this represents the overall idea, which is twofold. Firstly, to reduce the healthcare burden, and secondly, to come up with groundbreaking technologies. And this is a list of the wide range of areas that the NIBIB supports in research grants. And I suspect that you will find your particular science listed here. So where should one start? First off, keep in mind that if you don't find the one solicitation that covers your exact scientific interest, you can always go to the parent announcement route, the omnibus solicitation, investigator initiated. They all mean the same thing. And for the R21 mechanism, this would mean early exploratory developmental research grants. And you could also go for the investor-initiated R01, which is for later stage. Keep in mind that most of the institutes do participate in the investigator-initiated proposals. SBIRs can be investigator-initiated, so to target your application to a specific granting agency. If you have a medical device in the neurological disorder space, you could potentially use the SBIR to send your application to the NINDS, and the same for the SCTR. So I will now describe some specific opportunities that are still very, very wide. I will start with the exploratory developmental bioengineering research grants, the PAR-12-284, and this is seeking projects that, one, explore a unique multidisciplinary approach to a biomedical challenge, and two, are high risk but have a considerable payoff, and three, develop data which can lead to significant future research. Now, this particular solicitation is one that can be submitted to any of the 10 listed institutes within the NIH. When you go to the PAR announcement itself, the 14-092, if you just Google it, you'll see the full announcement, and there are 10 institutes listed there. So you will need to make sure that your project is within scope. Otherwise, you can use the omnibus solicitation, the PAR-12-302, which I mentioned earlier. So again, this is a solicitation, and the other one was an unsolicited omnibus. So BRPs may propose within a 12-page research strategy section a design-directed, developmental, discovery-driven, or hypothesis-driven research. It's expected that a BRP will have a well-defined goal or deliverable that will be achieved in a 5 to 10-year time frame based on objective milestones specified in the initial application. Some BRP projects may propose research that could lead to a novel device as a product. Partnership with companies that have relevant expertise or that may eventually be involved in commercialization is appropriate under the BRP program. And projects with translational focus are encouraged as well. So the bioengineering research partnerships, the R01, this is a funding opportunity announcement to encourage bioengineering applications that will accelerate the development and adoption of promising tools and technologies that can address important biological research problems. The objectives are to establish these tools and technologies as robust, well-characterized solutions that will fulfill an unmet need and are capable of enhancing our understanding of life science processes or the practice of medicine. So I will now like to discuss opportunities within the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke, the NINDS. There has been a paradigm shift within the NINDS to create 3 unique tracks with specific programs within these 3 areas. In the biological as well as in the devices track, they've established the CREATE program. And CREATE stands for Cooperative Research to Enable and Advance Translational Enterprises. Whole focus at NINDS, due to the paradigm shift, is the devices track. And the CREATE Devices program provides support for projects that focus on preclinical and pilot clinical studies for therapeutic devices. There are 3 tracks for devices: the Final Design program, the Path to 510K program, and the Path to PMA Pre-Market Approval, or HDE, Humanitarian Device Exemption, which we'll get into in a few slides. And so there are dozens of wonderful mechanisms in the U series. The NINDS in these 3 tracks uses these 3 U mechanisms that you see here. The UH2 Exploratory Developmental Cooperative Agreement, Phase 1, is used to support the development of new research activities in categorical program areas. With the U2, support is generally restricted in level of support and in time. The UH3 Exploratory Developmental Cooperative Agreement, Phase 2, provides the second phase of the support for innovative exploratory and development research activities initiated under the UH2 mechanism. So usually only UH2 awardees are eligible to apply for UH3 support. However, there are times when they make exceptions. And it's worth noting that the UH2 and the UH3 are filed together, almost like a fast track, which is why you will see them together in future slides. They're awarded in stages. After you win an UH2, you will have to reach certain milestones, which will be reviewed, and if they feel that you were successful, they will award you the UH3. And the U44, the Small Business Innovation Research, the SBIR Cooperative Agreements, Phase 2, and this is an SBIR Phase 2 or SBIR Fast Track Award to support in-depth development of R&D ideas, which are likely to result in commercial products or services. So, and finally, the third in this devices program, we'll get into the particular dollar amounts here, as you can see. So the first is the final design program, and the goal here is to pursue translational and clinical studies to inform final device design. So as you can see, you can receive in the UH2, UH3 up to 10 million, and the U44 up to 6.5 million. And the Path to 510K program up to 10 million, UH2, UH3, and up to 6.5 million for the U44. And the Path to PMA or HDE, UH2, UH3 up to 10 million, and UH44 up to 6.5. So again, there's a lot of money to be had here. So it's important to note that the funding levels are such that the UH2 is for up to 3 years and the UH3 is for up to 4 years. And so the total duration of UH2 and UH3 may not exceed 5 years. So the next due date for all of these is October 21st. I will now just like to discuss opportunities within the National Cancer Institute, the NCI. This is an R21 for early stage research. This offers up to $500,000 in direct costs for up to 3 years. And the next is the R43, which is an SBIR Phase 1, and the R44, which is an SBIR Phase 2. So the Phase 1 is up to $225,000, and the Phase 2 is for up to $1.5 million. And so as you can see, the next due date for this is November 4th. Now on to BARDA, the Biomedical Advanced Research and Development Authority, which manages the procurement and advanced development of medical countermeasures for chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear agents, as well as the advanced development and procurement of medical countermeasures for pandemic influenza and other emerging infectious diseases. So what BARDA tries to do, and this is just the classical stages of development, is starting with discovery, then the preclinical, and then the clinical stage. And at the beginning of Phase 1, this is the valley of death, as you see here, between Phase 1 and Phase 2, and where there's a very low success rate to move to Phase 2. Therefore, the interest of BARDA is to take products from the NIH, primarily from NIAID, and support the research to move them through the clinical stages. So medical countermeasures for pandemic influenza is not just another vaccine or therapeutic. This could also be a device for detection, or it could be a device for protection of personnel. So these are the three particular broad announcements that we have presently. And then the second is the CBRN, and there's plenty of opportunities here for medical devices. You should read through the solicitation and see what it says. It's a broad agency announcement, so it will not be specific. And so it's important to read through it and to see if you are within scope. And the medical countermeasure development, MCM, also covers medical devices. So more advanced TRL, technology readiness level, is what they're looking for. So look at the solicitation and make sure that you meet the particular TRL. So BARDA medical countermeasures include vaccines, antimicrobial drugs, therapeutic products, diagnostics, and non-pharmaceutical medical supplies, and devices for public health medical emergencies. So we'll now move on to the U.S. Army. and we're going to be specifically looking at the USA MRMC 14-1, which will turn into the 15-1 on October 1st. So the U.S. Army Medical Research and Material Command mission is to provide solutions to medical problems of importance to the American service member at home and abroad, as well as to the general public at large. The BAA is intended to solicit extramural research and development ideas. Projects funded under this BAA must be for basic and applied research, and that part of development is not related to the development of a specific system or hardware procurement. So projects must be for scientific study and experimentation directed towards advancing the state of art or increasing knowledge or understanding rather than focusing on a specific system or hardware solution. Pre-proposal, pre-applications must be submitted at any time prior to the BAA closing date. Pre-proposal, pre-application should describe specific ideas or projects pertain to any of the research areas of interest outlined in the BAA. A pre-proposal, pre-application must include a brief description of the scientific methods and design to address the problem. The list of research areas is self-explanatory, except for the last, the special investment areas, innovation funding, is for initiatives of interest that include, but are not limited to, cross-cutting new science and technology that may not have an apparent place elsewhere in this announcement. So see where your particular medical device might fit into those research areas of interest. So how do we apply to the DoD, Department of Defense, and BARDA announcements? Firstly, the DoD and BARDA announcements require a pre-application. For BARDA, it could be up to 10 pages, and for the DoD, it is limited to 2 pages. If they like it, they will call you to submit a full application. If you do make it past the white paper stage, your chances increase dramatically. You need to present your science well and adhere to the solicitation guidelines. If your full application is favorably reviewed technically, you will go into the final stages, which is the contract negotiations and then the award. These are not a standard phase 1 SBIR phase 1 application. You need to submit a top quality white paper. You need to make sure that you are responsive. Are you at the right technology readiness level? Are you addressing the medical problem that they are funding? You must definitely relay a compelling scientific story. So relay the innovative and strong leadership aspects that you have as well. In a full application, there are many sections, outline statements of work, project management, how are you going to manage the project, how are you going to coordinate all the different moving parts. For example, DARPA and DTRA like to see flowcharts. What are the milestones for each element? What if you don't meet the milestones? What are your contingency plans? What is your go, no-go strategy? These are all questions that need to be addressed. So from the time you are called, DTRA can give you 40 days to respond, and BARDA can give you 90 days to submit the full application. Therefore, there is a very short timeline for submission. So, to summarize, what I tried to show you today is that funding is available for medical devices at all R&D stages. Early proof of concept, preclinical, late clinical, phase 3 efficacy study, trials. For all of these R&D stages, there is funding available. From neurological disorders to biodefense to infectious diseases to cancer to heart, lung, blood, through all of these areas, one can target a funding opportunity for a medical device in your field. So let's take a moment to look at the NIH review process to see how they will judge a grant application. From the deadline date, 4 months later is peer-reviewed and scored. When reviewing and considering whether to fund your application, they weigh the strengths versus the risks. The way they do this is by first looking at 2 things, responsiveness and competitiveness. Are you responsive to the solicitation? Because no matter how good your science is, If you are not responsive to the solicitation, you will not be awarded. And are you competitive? And when we talk about competitiveness, they are basically looking at 5 criteria, and they score you on these 5 criteria. The first is the significance of your research to public health. Is it significant? And how significant is it? Secondly, is it innovative? Are you going to really make a change with your approach? Thirdly, leadership. Do you have the right leadership in place? Does the PI and the key personnel have the expertise and experience to successfully lead such a project? 4, the environment. Can it support the work you propose? For example, do you have the proper lab space for the work you will do? And 5th, but ultimately what makes the difference between a good application that isn't awarded and one that is awarded is your scientific approach, the milestones, the specific goals. So ultimately, top-notch scientific approach is what wins awards. So now from a more broad perspective, I'd like to take a step back and give you a quick summary of FreeMind's systematic approach to non-dilutive funding and how to maximize your chances for an award. So these are the questions that you need to ask yourself as you go through the application process. You need to know the interests of the institute, what is on the agenda, what are they looking to fund, what will not get funded as it is not within scope or was within scope of previous years. You need to make sure that you are looking at the current announcements. Focus your project application. Focused applications have a greater chance of being favorably reviewed. You do not want your proposal to come across to reviewers as overly ambitious. Make sure that it is within scope. And ask for what is necessary. Do not inflate the budget or ask for less to ease the financial burden of the NIH. And you want to present a complete project, one comprehensive storyline. Leverage on research collaborations, collaborate with academia and vice versa, or other industry partners, each bringing a different set of skills to the table. Take on consultants, statisticians, or outsource work you are less proficient at or do not have the expertise to complete. So generally speaking, we highly recommend a company seeking funding opportunities to establish a partnership with the academia. And, you know, we at FreeMind have gained valuable experience assisting our clients in implementing these types of partnerships from initiation to submission. And so we'll be happy to do so in the future as well. So next I'd like to emphasize the need to target the right mechanism. As you probably understood from the previous slide, there are many industry-oriented solicitations out there working through various mechanisms. It's very important to know your way around these mechanisms. There are several different pockets of money for industry as well as academic industry collaborations. It's vital to understand the different size of awards and success rates. Know the different funding levels and match them to your requirements. Conduct a thorough strategic assessment. Objectives. What are the objectives? What are your objectives in your project? In the project itself, what research do you have and what stages of development? The opportunities. Where would you like your research to be in the next 12 to 24 months? And lastly, what is the potential for success for each research project? And so now back to the FreeMind team. We have 40 full-time employees, including scientific analysts and consultants who are dedicated to providing organizations with the best strategy for government funding. The professional department is directed by Guy Harchin, and the consulting service is directed by Joel Knopf. So to summarize what we do, we offer 2 core services. The first core service is a strategic assessment undertaken by analysts who are all PhDs. We look at your pipeline of activities. We look at the various programs that you have in-house. We want to understand at what stage of development they are at. What are your R&D funding needs? What are the tasks that you wish to complete using non-dilutive funding? We then link those tasks with available pockets of money. The list of available funding opportunities then translate into a multiple submission granting strategy. And we take a multiple submission granting strategy because We found in our over 14 years of experience that to really win awards, you need to take a diligent approach. And this means that you need to submit multiple applications and on occasion resubmit, learn from the process, and get better at it. So in short, take multiple shots at the goal. Our second core service is the actual grant writing. Our ability to write effective applications is based on our years of experience, expertise, and past awards. Here you will be working with one of our grant consultants. They will draft for you comprehensive templates. These comprehensive templates are based upon the solicitation guidelines of a particular agency. You will then send us any initial information that you have. We'll plug it into the templates, and we'll then send those templates to you. And from here on in, it's a ping-pong, ongoing feedback grant writing process. So, of course, we cannot write your science for you. You're the experts, and we need you on board. So we'll ask you questions, insert comments, rewrite sections. We just keep sending it back to you with our input until we feel that you get it right, until we feel that it's up to par. And finally, we assemble all the information together. We package it neatly, and we set it off, and that's what we do. So to summarize what I just described graphically, there are three distinct areas: the client, analyst, and project managers. And the client in the top left corner has R&D funding needs. And those R&D funding needs are then translated into a multiple submission granting strategy. And, this could be even as long as a couple of years. This granting strategy is then executed using the project managers who see the client through the submission with the grant production process. The review is external, as I mentioned, and the award is made, and this goes on until we fund all of your R&D needs. This is a cyclical process. The granting strategy is updated regularly, and thanks to the learning curve between the client and FreeMind, we get better at it over time. So this concludes today's webinar on medical device funding. Again, my name is Mark Cohen, and I thank you very much for your time. I will now answer some questions that came in during the talk. Unfortunately, I will not be able to answer all questions, but I will be happy to speak with each and every one of you over the phone and discuss specifics. So please do take note of my contact information, but I will be emailing to all registrants the slide deck of today's webinar. And now to answer questions. So let's see what questions we have now. So pricing, we work on a success-oriented business model of a 6% success fee upon award and a monthly retainer that is based upon the number of pipeline projects. I can discuss with you individually quotes for this retainer, so you should contact me directly for that. Okay, let's see what other questions that we have here. Let's see. Foreign companies. Foreign companies can compete alongside U.S. companies as well. The only addition is a foreign justification piece to the application. This discusses why specifically the research is taking place outside the U.S. This could be because of the PI or the lab or clinical research subjects. Let's see what other questions did I have here. Okay. All right, and regarding success rates, the NIH average across the board for all mechanisms is about 17%, whereas the FreeMind group, with our years of experience and literally thousands of applications, has moved that up substantially. Again, it depends on the specific mechanism, so rather than quoting a specific percentage, it's better to speak with you individually regarding a particular mechanism that you have an interest in, and then we can discuss the success rates accordingly. Again, please email me with any questions that you have, but I will be sending out to you the slide deck to everyone. So again, thank you all very much for joining us today for today's medical device webinar, and we do look forward to having you attend next week's one on the SBIR, STRs, and then the final one on registration ins and outs. I thank you very much, and have a great day.